Hello, guys, and welcome to episode 2 of the Keep It Real podcast. So we don't need to do any intros anymore. Today's topic, for some people, you might think is a random topic for us to be speaking about, but like we said in our intro, we want to give takeaways for everybody that are listening based on our own experiences, but also things that we've seen over the years as coaches. And I think it's the probably the one of the biggest topics in like health, fitness, and CrossFit, and that is nutrition. So
you think that's the current biggest topic?
No, one of. I think like recurring, whether you're an affiliate owner, whether you go to the gym, whether you're trying to perform, like everybody has a preconceived idea of like nutrition. There's obviously a lot of negative connotations with the word diet instead of nutrition, which is why we're talking about nutrition in terms of it being sustainable and healthy.
So that is the difference between the two descriptions, you would say, between a diet and nutrition, is the sustainability aspect to it.
Yeah, I think a diet is a negative term. I think a diet is something that, I don't know what, without research, what era, what year specifically the term came popular, but like I think a diet is used to describe somebody who feels like they need to like lose weight. Essentially, it's like a diet is something radical or not sustainable. Like if you call something a diet, you just don't see it as something that it's like, okay, this is something that's going to be sustainable for the rest of my life. It seems something like every year coming into the summer, I want to do this diet, or like, you know, like different fads or different this. Whereas like nutrition, all of us fuel ourselves in some way. Like, and you know, like when you're talking about information, like protein, carbs, fats, like everything has nutritional info. So whether it's good or bad, it's nutrition.
Yeah.
And so like, you shouldn't see eating as necessarily a diet. You should see it as like, okay, what nutrition am I giving myself? Why I'm giving myself that? And, you know, is it something that's for a goal or something that I just want to sustain for the rest of my life? But we'll get to that later. Okay. So first of all, what I was going to say is why we are talking about this today is mainly because someone out of the two of us has had like a recent
epiphany?
Well, not epiphany, but experience,
Positive experience
with nutrition, and like something that I think would be good as a takeaway for others. So like, and I think it'd be quite entertaining.
Yeah.
We haven't named it yet, but we might call it From Fat to Fit, or I don't know, we don't know, or Obese to Beast. But like, so firstly, like, can you explain to everybody, I think we should both do this, your nutrition history? So like, you know, like what have you, from when you got into CrossFit up until now, like how did you fuel when you first got in? How have you fueled consistently for the years? And then what happened, you know, like recently up until now?
So I think the history starts at a point when actually I started CrossFit. And I think about the first reason why I, with my friend, went to the gym in the first place is I was quite fat in high school and I didn't have much success with the girls. I thought that was like, okay, let's go to the gym, let's get in shape. And I didn't have any kind of education or like history of education in training or in diet even less, you know, because I had some in training, let's say, but it's almost easier to figure out, or there is more accessible and simpler information online versus nutrition. Because I think when you start getting curious in the nutritional realm, there are so many diets to choose from. You know, there's the paleo, the Atkins, you name it. There's thousands of them. So we just went into the gym, we just trained, and then like I think the first time I actually paid attention to nutrition, funny enough, is when you look at bodybuilders, what they talk about is drinking more protein. So that was the first thing that we went to the nutrition store, bought a 30-pack sample with all different flavors, and then
What was your favorite?
it was some like crazy. I didn't know what I was doing, and my parents would be really against any kind of supplements. So all I did is I never hid drugs or alcohol growing up, but I hid my protein powder at home. And then I didn't know what I was doing. I just went to the gym. I made a protein shake for myself. I drank it before I worked out, and I drank one of that. But other than that, I was eating the same thing my grandmother was cooking for us. And then,
And what's like staple food in Hungary growing up?
Yeah,
Like
you know,
what?
like
Like
some-
hearty home food, is it?
Yeah,
Like
like
potatoes and bread.
and bread.
Okay.
Bread was always a staple of my diet. That is for sure, 100%. And then when we get a bit more serious with CrossFit with Laura, we get approached by the Hungarian
Sorry,
distributor.
sidetrack. So who got in? So I know this is not about
Yeah.
nutrition, but you only started looking into, you said like when we got more serious with Laura, like did you start before Laura and you
Yeah,
got
a little
Laura
bit,
into
but
it?
then- yeah,
But then you didn't worry about your own nutrition until Laura got into it.
yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Because
interesting.
she was beating me, so I wanted to get an edge. You know, we were doing the same training.
Ah,
I
okay,
was like,
but
I
you were
need
looking
to-
into it for yourself, not for Laura.
No.
Okay.
I was, because she was always like this filigree, like slim climber, and then I was like, yeah, you know, and it's almost like this preconceived notion, even back then, that girls needs to be slim and then guys need to be muscular.
Hmm.
So it was like, she needs to eat less, I need to eat more protein. And then we got approached by the Hungarian distributor of Pure Pharma at the time. You know, they were big in CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
And then little did
Which is called Puri now.
they just called Pure now.
Yeah.
Which little did we know at the time, he never gave a label to it, but I learned it over time that it was a hardcore ketogenic paleo diet, no carb whatsoever. And I think in terms of an introduction to diet, that was probably one of the worst things that could happen to us, because all of a sudden, you know, it's like you made these drastic changes and you go from your everyday nutrition, whatever that may look like, to so far into the extreme that all of a sudden it's not just that it wasn't sustainable, but man, like I was fat, skinny, so quick. And then the performance wasn't coming, and he was talking about like, you gotta give time. And then eventually we let that go. And then from my perspective over the years, I did try the CrossFit. What was it? The zone that they were. I tried the zone as well. I had a little tray, and then, you know, like a thumb of fat, and it was like a palm of protein, and then carbs, palm full of carbs, and like two palms of veggies. And then I remember I was just starting to get into twice a day sessions, and I was just so fucking hungry all the time. So there was like a doner kebab, a little station at the metro station. There's a little buffet next to us. So I went there for lunch, dinner, and snack. I had, for 1 year, I had like 2 or 3 doner kebab plates. I was massive then. So
Did you ever go rich Fronin, gallon of milk, peanut butter?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you did that for a while.
Right.
I think everyone from the Fronin era is on
100%.
milk diet.
Yeah. And then, you know, like over the years, I tried trekking, when that became a bit more popular. The problem from my side with the trekking was that I was not good at. That's another funny story. So the first time trekking, I reached out to, in the UK, there was this guy. He was very big 1 year. I think it was 2015, 16, 17.
Matt Hodges, Bufffuck.
Yeah. And I reached out to him for a plan.
Shout out Matt Hodges.
And then he's a smart guy and he's great. But I just remember sending this template over, and I was like, okay, certain grams of this, grams of that. And I wasn't aware that the quantities has to be measured once they are cooked.
Yeah, okay. Oh,
So
so you
I-
did it dry and had all this food.
Fucking hell. Like,
How
the
long did
amount
it take you
of
to-
quinoa.
How long?
It was just overflowing from the pan. And I fucking hate quinoa as well.
Yeah.
What? No, it was something. It wasn't just quinoa. It was like bulgur or whatever you call it. So dry, tastes horrible, no sauce, chicken breast. So I ended up messaging. I was like, man, like, I can't eat this much. I can't eat this much food. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And then he helped me that I should have. So I should measure it after I cook it, obviously. And but these are, I guess, the mistakes you make along the way, and this is how you learn. But essentially, I did that for a little bit, and I reached out to M2 Performance around 2018 as well. He gave me a template. I was following that a little bit as well. But the problem with me, I went extreme into like a diet that were never sustainable for long periods of time. So it was just like, when I was living in Brussels, it was like microwave rice and tuna and a ton of mayo next to it. And then after coaching 6 hours a day, training twice a day, I got home, I ate that little rice and tuna and a little bit of mayo on top, and I was just so hungry. I just ripped open the cupboard and I was going ham on the sandwiches. So I think it was also the lack of education, maybe going into wrong directions, and then really trying to focus on the diet. And then after a while, I think I just gave up, because I also had this like arrogant, almost outlook on, the girls measure and input their calories into MyFitnessPal, whatever. So essentially what I'm trying to say is measuring is for girls and guys. If you take Rich's history or what he talks about, he just like eats whenever he's hungry, and whatever that may be.
Well, he was the role model, right? Like he was the guy whose videos we were watching, and he clearly was performing well. And, so it was always something that you could just be like, oh, well, he's clearly doing something right,
Yeah, you don't need much. You just need, he was, from the videos, it felt like he was just fasting all day. He drank a protein shake at night, and then maybe he dug into some like Chick-fil-A or whatever sandwich in the evening. Like he wasn't eating, and maybe that was something that's working for him.
So so you started working with M2 in 2018, 19. From then until kind of like this year, you've just been kind of like going with the flow, have you? Like,
yeah, and like a proper trash can.
Consistently a trash can though, or like during season you're a little bit healthier and out of season you're unhealthy? Or?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the thing is, since we've been living together with Gabby for almost 5 years now, I've actually been on somewhat of a diet, because she measured her food. So
It goes to word diet, you see?
Yeah. So
it's ingrained.
It's
ingrained.
So she cooked, and then all she did is when she ate 100 grams of rice, she gave me 125.
Yeah.
So I was sort of doing.
We're talking uncooked weight there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that.
Or you'd be hungry.
No. And the thing is with that is, I did eat what she was eating, but the bad habit next to it is we always had the snack drawer. And then, even when she gave me that food, I always had a baguette next to it, or bread or whatever. And there's like tremendous amount of sauce.
But do you think that's just habits? Or do you think the bread is a habit, and then the sauce is because you feel like it wasn't tasty enough? So the sauce was for flavor and the bread was habit, or?
No, I think it was more like,
or again, that mindset of I need more.
That one, and maybe I told myself that, I'm working so hard in the gym, I need to reward myself with something. And then like ice cream in the summer, like almost like a mini magnum every night. And then it's just like, as soon as I was done with my meal, I needed to reach for something sweet. It didn't have to be a lot, but there was always something sweet. And then I was just unaware of what was I eating really, in terms of like,
I guess it's like unconscious, right?
Exactly.
It's just unconscious eating. Like you just think, I need to eat to fuel. I'm training all the time. It's fine. Yeah. And if you don't try something different, you don't know if you could feel different.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like subconsciously, I was just like drawn towards, and I think most of us, I guess, more carbs and fats. So and especially fats in terms of carbs, protein and fat. My diet was predominantly dominated by fats.
And we only realized that recently, really.
Only recently, really.
And so
mass amount of calories were coming in the form of fats. And I think that it's also trickling down from back in the day when we were on the ketogenic diet. It's just like, we got so accustomed to that because we were eating that for so long.
Yeah. And so, not talking yet about what you're doing, but recently we made a bit of a change. And so like, maybe just start about why we made a change. So from after semi-finals, you made a pretty drastic change to your nutrition.
Yes. Yeah.
And like, do you want to share why that was?
Just a tiny prehistory to that. Like, as I was going through my CrossFit career year by year, I did notice that every year I was getting a bit heavier. You know, not by a lot, but maybe when I was starting, I was like 96 kilos. And then it went up to a point when I was like consistently around 110, 112. And being the size of myself, that weight fluctuates quite a lot, even within the day. So in the morning, I would step on a scale, it's 109. And then by the evening, I was done. It was like 102, 112, 113. And I was kind of floating there. And I felt at that time, I felt comfortable at that weight. You know, the strength levels were going up and the gymnastics it was all right, but
Not getting better, not
obviously
getting worse.
not getting worse. Yeah, so even before semifinals, I was consistently here around 108, 109 kilos. And then we went to semifinals. We talked about the previous episode. I hurt my hip. And I just remember we were sitting at the Go Vodlow room we had, shout out to them. And I think you kind of just threw it in. It was like, what were you saying about like?
I think I said that we have an opportunity now to like, what we have to do is have a bit of time off to, like decompress after the competition, but we need to be as optimal as possible to allow your hip to recover. Like we didn't know how serious. We knew that it was like likely to be some form of tear, like not major, but some form of tear. And I just suggested that, like after the week off, after the holiday, that, we know you sleep well anyway, and we know we can manage training, but to be even more optimal, that there's potentially some like nutritional things that I would change to reduce inflammation in the body and like allow you to heal more optimally.
That was like the last piece to the puzzle that is within
For
our
you.
control.
Yeah.
To be optimal with like the inflammation in the body. You were saying, actually, that was, I think, the thing that I remember the most, that you were saying that we need to make sure that the inflammation is as low as possible and as natural as possible. We're not fueling the inflammation. I was like, all right. And that was kind of like the catalyst in my head, is like, probably for myself, I would have been just like, whatever is the outcome, I would have rested and then rehabbed it and whatever. But I would never made a nutritional change in order to do that. That came from you. And real catalyst behind that was that I knew that I need to show up for the team and get back as soon as I can. So it was like an easy choice. When the why is strong, the how is easy. So I was like, okay, tell me what I need to do. And then I follow that. And then that's when you first introduced me to the vertical diet, which I heard about a long time ago from watching Tor Bjornsson and watching, what's the other strongman's name? I forget the name. Brian Shaw.
Sure, yeah.
And then eventually remembering the Rhino.
Yeah,
Stan
Stan the man.
thing. Yeah.
And so before we get into the like what the vertical is, I think maybe I'll talk about like my experience with nutrition up until this point, and then we'll talk about like the changes that you've made now and the impacts that they've had. So yeah, from my impact,
and pretty much like we both made that decision. Like we both went vertical, as the nutrition program is called, after semifinals. So it's something that we are doing currently together. Which is also a big help on.
Yeah. Like I said to you, if you go all in with it, like to support you, I'll go all in. Like I knew that I wouldn't struggle as much as you would, especially in the initial, which we'll talk about after. But I think that also helps with nutrition, is like, and again, this isn't a diet. It's called the vertical diet, but it's more of a nutritional program. And it's like anything that is a big change in comparison to what you're currently doing, there is going to feel like there is a transition period, which is quite challenging, And so like I knew that. And so I was, and so in that situation, maybe you're thinking about making a nutritional change. It's like having yourself like a buddy as such, who's either experienced it before or to do it with you, helps massively.
It's like, and sorry, and then we go into your nutrition journey.
Yeah,
it's
no
like
worries.
going to the gym for the first time or signing up for your health marathon. It's good to have someone where you guys can keep each other accountable. I guess having that support system. So yeah.
No, for sure. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, like, I don't know about you, but like growing up, I always saw my parents doing diets. I don't know if your parents ever did it, but like I've seen like my parents do Atkins, or my parents do the juice diet for a little bit, or
both,
or like, I can't remember the name of other ones, but yeah, like these different cookbooks of different diets lying around or
Because
whatever, and like
each era has their like popular nutrition.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
touches the main
Exactly.
population.
Yeah, and like so, like my dad was like not a high level athlete, but like did a lot of sports up until, you know, he became like a businessman or whatever, and then like traveling away, like nights out, drinking and eating and whatever, like gained a lot of weight and was always trying to lose that weight, but never stuck to anything consistently. So like subconsciously, I was always seeing somebody like try these fads, like see a little bit of success, not sustain, and then fall back again, you know.
So it was like a
Yeah,
roller coaster almost.
constantly, you know. And like it was only when my mum started CrossFit when I was 15 or 16 that I noticed like a noticeable difference and a sustainable difference in like her habits. But again, at the time that was subconscious. Like I can't say like I was sat there 16 watching her going, oh, interesting, you know.
Yeah.
But we were like as kids, we were never forced or taught about like diets or whatever, you know. Like we ate, like I would say, like the average household in the UK would eat, you know, like we'd eat pastas, we'd eat bread, we'd eat rice, like we'd vary up, we'd have pork some days, chicken some days, fish some days if you like it, whatever. Vegetables are never a kid's favorite, I don't think, so I didn't do.
Did your mum cook growing?
My dad like is a really, really good cook, but from like the day to day, he was away for work quite a lot, so mum did most of the cooking.
Did you guys have like meals almost like on rotation? Like Mondays,
I think
get tonight or
no, I think by the time I got into like high school, I can't remember when I was young, but by the time I got into like high school, there were just like staples that I liked and I would ask for, you know, like I would always ask for chicken pasta pesto. So literally like a bowl of pasta, couple of chicken breasts, pesto, done. Or like pork chops and mashed potatoes, for example, you know. And like if anybody else in the UK has got a grandma who loves to cook, like on a Sunday, you'd go for a Sunday roast at your grandma's house, you know. But yeah, so like the first time I became like conscious of what nutrition was my sister was actually like rowing for England. And I just remember them like, she's 5 years older than me. And I remember her saying, you know, like they've been told that they need to eat more carbs to fuel. And especially if they're at school studying, like their energy levels. So they need to make sure they're eating enough. And so then with me playing rugby and me like in the position that I was in, I was always like a chunky child, like not massive fat, but I was like, you know, like a little bit fluffy, as we'd say. But I loved my food, you know, like I ate a lot. But when she said that, I was like, okay, so if I want to put size on, I'm now going to the gym and doing like rugby training. Like I need to eat a little bit more as I grow. And same thing, like, you know, you search like, what do England rugby players take? And the sponsor was Maxi Muscle at the time. So you order all these like protein shakes or whatever. And you like download the free training program that they have with it of like the bench and the bent over rows and stuff. And you take it to the gym with you. But then it was interesting because my sister went to university and after her first year, or second year, she stopped rowing because she was doing like 2 degrees at one time at Cambridge. Like she's a highly intellectual person. But she carried on eating like she was when she was rowing, and she just got massive. And when I mean massive, I mean like big. And so
that story is not unique in itself. This is what they say. The
yeah,
professional
a lot of athletes
do
do
struggle
yeah.
upon retirement or walking away from their sport.
Exactly. And again, at the time, like I wasn't acutely aware of like consciously putting 2 and 2 together, but just seeing her go from like a slim 60 something kilo girl to like, or 70 kilo something girl to like 110, 115 kilo girl. And the only thing that happened was she stopped training.
Okay.
You know, like you're just like,
and she was eating the same.
Well, I assume she was eating the same. Maybe university life, she was drinking a little bit more. I couldn't tell you, but you know, like within like less than a year, you know, it was almost like from this to this. And then, so yeah, like I went to university, but again, like only with the knowledge that I had already in terms of like, okay, you eat more carbs for energy, you eat more protein for muscle. You know, that was basically what it is. And like, there's fat content in everything, so don't worry about your fats. Like, but I still wasn't really aware of it. Like I was just like, I need to get big and I need to feel good. So I just need carbs and protein. And then it was only when I quit CrossFit and I was living with bodybuilders and I saw how they would prep for a competition. and how they were weighing everything. And they were like, when they were cutting, how strict they'd be. When they were doing refeed days, just how many simple versus complex carbs they'd have, and like the changes in their physiques that they had compared to when they were bulking, if they were doing a clean bulk or a dirty bulk, and then like a drastic cut versus like a prolonged cut, and then like seeing their energy levels fucking do this. Yeah.
Okay.
Like it was really interesting. And again, it wasn't like I was writing notes down all the time, but like I was just absorbing and observing like all of these things. And so when I quit rugby, I was like, you know what, like, let's see how, shredded I can get or whatever. It'd be quite interesting. Like,
What were your heaviest
I
playing?
was 106 kilos and I was 5'9" at the time because I had a late growth spurt when I was like 18. So yeah, I got up to like 106 kilos when I was at uni.
Was it like, did you feel a bit like fluff?
Oh yeah, I wasn't lean. Like I wasn't fat. Like I wasn't like, pot belly like you see some rugby players, but I was like, you could see there was muscle and then you could see there was just like layers of fat on top of it, but it was quite spread. Like it was just all over. Like even my face was a lot rounder.
Would that be a common physique?
Maybe I'll input like a video, like a little picture of it.
Was that common, like aesthetic look amongst?
I think if you're
peers?
if you play like from 1 to 5 in rugby, so front row or second row, like you tend to be a bigger boy, and like even 6, 7, and 8 tend to be like bigger boys, but a little bit leaner because they get around the park a lot more. All the backs are obviously pretty lean, so I don't know how much you know about rugby, but yeah, so like if you're in the forward pack, like size matters because you got eight guys pushing against each other basically.
So you weren't an outlier in terms of like
no,
your physical appearance.
I wasn't, but I would say what was different about me was maybe this isn't everywhere, but like where I grew up is like it was almost like the backs were friends with the backs and the forwards were friends with the forwards, and sometimes like the 6 and the 7 would fit in more with the backs, and then it would be like 1 to 5 and then the number 8 be friends, like different personalities. And whether that's just like a common thing in rugby or just my experience, but I kind of had more of the personality, I would say, of kind of like the 6 and the 7 and the backs. Even though I loved being a forward, I tended to get on better with like the backs. So I was an outlier in regards to all my friends were backs who were like a little bit more shredded, more muscular, but then I was expected to be like slightly bigger. And I think that's why I never went full like commitment to being a forward, because I was still light, even at 105 kilos, like I was still light. Like
you would have needed to put on more size.
The boys either side of me were like 115, 120, and shorter than me. So like they were up to here on me or here, and 10 kilos heavier. So like it's a lot bigger boy,
Wow. Okay.
And so like I tried actually in one summer before I quit rugby, I actually tried to do like a cleaner bulk and like just put on as much muscle mass as possible.
And this was before moving in with the body.
Yeah, this was before then. And I did, but I wasn't like your stereotypical like easy gainer in terms of muscle. Like I had to work hard for my muscle gains.
Was it just like massive quantities of like rice, potatoes, pasta, like that?
Yeah, and then like those like mass gainer shakes with like 1,000 calories in a protein shake.
So because you reference as a clean bulk and a dirty bulk, so
yeah,
what would be the difference?
Yeah, I mean, like a clean bulk, like how bodybuilders would describe it, is a clean bulk is like you're a lot more cautious of the quality of the carbs that you're putting into your body. So like you still try and accumulate more total calories, and like you're still looking at your simple versus your complex, but like you're trying to do it more gradually in a clean bulk. And like put on and limit the amount of fat mass that you put on. Whereas in a dirty bulk, the idea is to just put on as much mass as possible. So knowing that if I pump as much iron as I can, I get the most out of the musculature, and I also chuck all these calories in me, I'm going to put on a shitload of weight, but I've got to accept that a lot of it's also going to be fat. Like no cardio.
That's and just a shorter period of time versus like clean, or the time is?
The time is, it tends to be shorter in a dirty bulk than a clean bulk, but it varies from person. It's a little bit like CrossFit, right? It's like, if you know that you've got to get stronger, you might take 12 weeks to do a strength block. But if you know that, like you only need 6 weeks to get there, like I think it would be person dependent. but yeah, so, you know, I was with the bodybuilders and I was like, you know what, let's just see how shredded I could get. And at this point,
Was it already in the UAE?
no, still
Still.
in Cardiff.
Fine.
Yeah. And um, I went to the prep coach that they were using for bodybuilding. I said, hey, I've just started CrossFit. I'm not competing. I'm literally just going to the box. But like, I'd like to stick to something because the boys are sticking to something. I'm in a good environment to do so. Again, environment and people around you. And I think it'd be cool. And just like, I didn't, I wasn't tracking my calories, but he was giving me, have this much of this much of this much of
So
this.
it's like a meal plan.
Yeah, so he was giving me a meal plan basically.
3
He's like,
eggs in the
this is your
morning plus-
breakfast, this is your
Okay.
pre-workout snack, this is your lunch, this is your post-workout snack, this is whatever, you know, like from, and I literally just did that for 12 weeks. I didn't come off it at all because the boys were doing a cut for their comp and I was like, I'm going to do this with them. And so even on their refeed days, because when bodybuilders cut, they might do like a set amount a week, depleting their carbs massively. And then they'll have it's called like a repletion day, like a refeed day. And I'll see them eating like in one sitting, like 2 pizzas with sauce all over it and like 24 Krispy Kreme donuts. And like, at first it's like cool. And then you see them get into their 20th donut and you're like, oh, it's a little bit gross now. And like, but then they'd wake up the next morning high on life, like absolutely massive, vascular, shredded, and you're just like, holy shit, like what the body does and how it
Did
takes
they have
in.
to force themselves to eat that amount of food, or they were just like so depleted of that kind of like junk?
I think it started as excitement, but when you got to like, oh my God, I've still got 2 donuts to go, and like I've been told I need to eat this, it was a little bit like, ooh, I don't want to watch you eat this anymore, kind of thing. Like bodybuilders are crazy, man. Like their commitment to their craft is insane because like, not only like the hormonal changes, but like your mood impacts and like the discipline that you need to be a bodybuilder is crazy. But anyway,
I mean, that's a bit of a sideshow, but how grotesque is that we put bodybuilders and fitness models on the covers of magazines promoting a healthy lifestyle and a look that we should aspire to?
do we though?
I think for many years we did, yes.
For many, I don't
For
think
many
we do
years
now.
did. At that time, I think when we got into
Yeah.
health and fitness,
Yeah.
we still did.
Yeah. I think now you've got more like your like, you know, your fitness trainer people on the front of magazines. And like bodybuilding to us, like I know it's still very much a big sport, but I don't think it's like, you know, like I used to be like proper into it, even from a young, you know, like
But
slightly
that kind
younger.
of dietary lifestyle is as far away from healthy as
Yes.
it can be.
Yeah,
It's
and
almost like
again,
the same
that is
extreme as going to-
that is a diet.
that is a diet. Yeah.
Whether you're bulking or cutting, they are diets, and this is what we were talking about with the difference. And it's like,
So the thing is, what we're trying to establish is that a diet is not necessarily healthy.
just like training, like being an athlete is not necessarily how you would train to be healthy. You know, training to be a professional athlete is not healthy. You know.
We can both agree.
Yeah.
For sure.
But yeah, and so I did this, got super shredded. But what I didn't notice is all of my numbers from my lifts from when I was at university playing rugby, like my squat, my deadlift, or whatever, just went. Because
Gymnastics and conditioning, though.
well, I started CrossFit after playing rugby, so my gymnastics was always my weakest because it was just like I'd never done pull-ups really, like I'd never done handstand push-ups. I definitely had never done a muscle up or whatever, you know. So it was like I could get away with dips because of all like the bench press you do. I could kind of get away from handstands from a shoulder perspective, but like all rugby boys, your mobility is like this. So you're like in a handstand, like with your head on the, you know, your ass on the wall. But yeah, so like I was eating enough because I wasn't hungry all the time and my energy levels were good and I felt fitter. And gymnastics did definitely get better because I was obviously losing weight and still doing all the same work. But like my weights was just going down. Like I think when I started, I had 190 kilo squat from rugby days, like not depth squat, like rugby squat, like probably like above parallel or 2 parallel. But then I remember like the CrossFit total came up in the class and I think like I struggled to squat like 140, like I'd lost 50 kilos of strength.
So starting at the 12-week cut, what was your body weight then, and what was
honestly
at the last?
I can't remember, but all I remember, and I wish I could find the photo, is I had a photo of me at the end of 12 weeks and it was like paper thin skin, like I had like ridges in between my abs, like just stood there not trying to breathe out. and it was like, and it was great. But then because it was 12 weeks long, I got to the point where I was loving CrossFit more and more and more. But then I was like, that was the first time that I've noticed, like, I've done something with a goal in mind. I am now shredded, but it's actually not optimal for now what I want to do going forward. But that's because at the time, obviously, like, I didn't have hindsight knowing that I wanted to then be a CrossFit athlete. Like, I was just going to the box. I just
Did you
wanted to,
like how you looked though?
I actually thought I looked real skinny, but I liked the feeling of like working for something. Like, I set my goal and I stuck to it. Like, I liked the feeling of being like, I did this for 12 weeks and look at what happened to me, you know, like. But I think in my typical personality, there was always like then a negative, like being my own critic. I was like, oh, well, I shouldn't have done that. It was stupid, you know? And then, yeah, so moved to Abu Dhabi. And in the first, just before I left, I actually said to the bodybuilding prep coach, I was like, I love what we're doing, but like, I think I need to start aiming for performance. He was like, I couldn't agree with you more. Well, actually, sorry, if I backtrack, that was at the end of the 12 weeks. And then I decided I wanted to start competing. And he was like, in that case, we need to think more performance. And then he started like increasing my calories, talking about performance supplements like carbohydrates.
After the 12 weeks, so.
Yeah, so at the age of 19, I actually had some like real good performance-based nutrition advice. And, you know, did that all the way through regionals. But then after regionals, you know, I got the offer to go to Abu Dhabi, and I was like, look, I think I need to put on some strength. He wrote me like a strength diet. But when we moved to Abu Dhabi, had no money. New job in a new facility where like you had to work for your money. Like, yes, we had an awesome opportunity, we had a base salary or whatever, but it's like, it wasn't like straight away, here's this amount of money a month. It's like,
so it's short on money.
Yeah.
Had to work a lot, train a lot. So
Yeah.
I haven't nutrition now.
And so I basically just was like, I will try and follow the principles that we followed as close as possible, but like on a budget. So we had a Waitrose deli every morning. Me and Anthony would go to the Waitrose deli. We'd turn up to the gym with a whole chicken, a kilo of like pre-cooked rice from the deli thing.
Rotisserie chicken.
Yeah, rotisserie chicken, rice, and a kilo of Greek yogurt. And we'd just turn up at the gym, we'd chuck it in, and like we'd have, you know, like, and pineapple, because that was on my previous nutrition. And we'd basically like throughout the day just get through this chicken and rice throughout the whole day. And like when I actually turned up at Vogue, the owner of Vogue were like, oh, you're the fattest CrossFit athlete I've ever seen. Because I had like
really?
Yeah, because I'd had like, you know, like the summer of just like not really training after regionals or whatever, like getting my life in order to move to the Middle East or whatever. Mostly. Started working, yeah. Like was training, but like didn't really have much direction of what we were gonna do or whatever.
Were you fat though? You weren't fat.
I'll find you a picture. I wasn't
out of shape.
Like I was still training good, but I just didn't look very good.
Okay. In terms of like,
I was like skinny fat. Yeah. I was skinny fat. But yeah, and then, God, we're waffling quite a lot, but it's all right. It's history. But got to Yas, did the first year, and then same thing. 2015, we got disqualified from going to the CrossFit Games. Different story as a team. So then 2016.
Because of a passport issue.
Yeah, because of a passport.
When you say now it's disqualified, it's like,
yeah.
Who the fuck took all the gear?
Yeah, no,
it wasn't that.
Yeah.
It was
passport issue, yeah.
Location situation.
We actually went to regionals, qualified, and found out after that they were going to disqualify us from back then you had to be in the country from the 1st of January and one of our members wasn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then for the 2016 season, I was like, right, we're going to the games as a team again. Like, I want to get back to, you know, like the nutrition kind of mindset that I was in prior to moving to Abu Dhabi. Saw the success that people were having on Buff Box Nutrition, Matt Hodges, because like at the time he was the guy in CrossFit. You know, like you saw him with Bjorgvin, with Steve, with Phil.
In European CrossFit.
You know, in European CrossFit with Sarah even, I think, and Briggsy. And so reached out, started working with him. But again, it was a meal plan. So it wasn't, here's your macros, work it out yourself. It wasn't find out what's in the food. Again, it was a meal plan. So 2 different nutritionists, 2 people just telling me what to eat and me going, fine, follow it. See the results, happy as Larry, 16 games, podiumed, come off it, start working with it again. We went over to London and he introduced us to Liam. and he was like Liam Holmes from the UK, and they were like, we want to start taking a little bit more of an advanced route for nutrition, doing blood work and doing like metabolite testing. So went to London, had blood tests. Liam interpreted all the stuff as a phlebotomist. We then took the results, tailored a little bit to nutrition towards it for the 17 season. Narrowly missed out on the CrossFit Games in 2017. Jay was working with Matt after the 17 games. We made the decision for both of us to move over to Liam for him to manage everything. Like, we were like, well, if he's doing the blood work, interpreting it, telling us what supplements to have, like, he also is a nutritionist. He was a former like Chelsea football club nutritionist.
Right.
So we were just thinking, you know, like, or Tottenham, not Chelsea, sorry, Tottenham.
So he could oversee the whole.
Yeah, it's just, it makes sense to move. So, and at the time as well, like, Buff Box was a little bit like, they were starting to get complaints with, you know, the food in the UK, like with the amounts that were in compared to what they said that they were in.
Because it was
They had actually meal prep
they
as
actually
well.
have meal prep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, so yeah, started working with Liam. And Liam was the first person to really teach me the fundamentals of nutrition. So like quality of like, he had like a hierarchy pyramid, and like, he was like, it's not all about like cows in, cows out macros. Like, you want to fuel yourself with quality produce, you know, like, and also taught me about like nutrition timing around training, like, you know, what you should be eating within like 90 minutes to 3 hours of training, when you should get your fuel in post training, competing, how nutrition changes when you're competing. When you're trying to put on weight, it's not necessarily just about eating more, but like gradually eating more so that your stomach doesn't just like throw a frenzy because you're chucking so much into it, you know.
You know, the interesting thing here, what you're talking about, is I think we are both very similar in that regard from a coaching perspective as well. And now I'm with you from a diet perspective as well. And we're talking about, I think the biggest accomplishment or a coach can accomplish is building an autonomous athlete, any kind of coach. And by meaning that, what I mean by that is that you want to pass on as much valuable information to your client as much as they are willing to receive, and as much as they can become responsible for their own choices. And you really want to be in a position where you advise them if they need to, but you want to make sure that the athlete is not dependent on you. And I think this is what you're talking about. This is a very important thing. And I'm curious on what you think, because we talk about your experience, which is both around nutrition and diet, but they are drastically different in the sense of getting a meal plan from someone and you just blindly follow that. And you know, it might work, it might not work, but let's say it works. So why would you change? This person tells me this is what I have to eat. I follow this diet and I'm reaching my goal. Do you need to educate yourself, or why would you educate yourself in nutrition?
I think it's one of those things where it depends how much you want to hold yourself accountable. And what I mean by that is, it's like, and again, I had to kind of had this plan to talk about later, but we'll touch upon it now. It's a little bit like understanding why you're doing something. And so for me, nutrition, when I like sought out a prep coach, was always with the goal of being shredded when it was the first guy, with being at my best performance for CrossFit. It was never about nutrition for health. And health, like, although yes, to be a good athlete, you need to be consistent in your nutrition, you need it to be sustainable, it's still not what you would eat for the rest of your life. In regards to the supplementation, the nutrient timing, the eating when you're not hungry if you're trying to put on weight, not eating when you're hungry if you're trying to lose weight, you know, like having a performance goal, nutrition for a performance goal is very different to having nutrition for sustainability. And I think if you're having nutrition for sustainability, then accountability and learning about it yourself is more important, because it's one less thing to think about.
Not broadly about nutrition.
Yeah, like
but
if I say
what works for you.
yeah, like if I say to you, like, Kristof, this is going to work for your goal, here you go. Like, why would you, if you've got all these other things that you're trying to focus on, why would you spend more energy researching into that if you just trust? Do you know what I mean? Like, I was almost like, I'm paying this person, they're providing this for me, I'm getting what I want from it, so I won't concern myself with it, you know, to a certain degree.
I think it's very much an individual perspective as well, because and we're all so different, because at the end of the day, when you're working towards a goal, you're an athlete, you try to optimize your time. And then by the time you're done with all your training and your recovery and your nutrition, by the end of the day, your brain might be so fried that all you want to do is relax and unwind and whatever. But I think in the sport, there are many athletes and coaches who want to learn more, educate themselves, get better. And I think if we're looking at a broader scope and we're looking into the future, we owe it to ourselves to learn about nutrition, at least for our own sake.
Yeah. But again, I think it's down to the individual, right?
It is down to the individual, yeah.
So
That I agree with.
but even though now I'm thinking about it, like, even though Liam taught me all these things that were great for me as an athlete, and although I saw on all of my plans, this is the carbs you're eating, this is the fats you're eating, this is the protein, this is the calories, again, he still gave me a meal plan.
Okay.
So he gave me options, but he still gave me a meal plan. So again, I didn't have to track, because I knew that if I ate everything he told me to eat, I would get these macros. So I still wasn't actually aware that this equals this, and this equals this, and this equals this, you know. So it still didn't learn about tracking, but I learned a lot about like how to eat for performance and how to, time my nutrition, for example. Fast forward up until last year. So I worked with Liam from 2017 up until like earlier this year. So 2024, so 7 years. Yeah, long, because it just worked. Liam started to transition in his business, and now he's stopped his business and he's moved to work for another company. We're still very close friends, but after surgery and after what was going on with my gut, I needed a lot more help. It wasn't about like these principles of nutrition anymore. It was like, there's something going on that I can't get on top of, and it doesn't matter, you know, like and Liam, to be fair to him, despite having very little time, gave me so much of his time, and like went back to like full individual nutrition coaching, and we just couldn't get on top of it. And to the point where like we had a call and was like, look, mate, like, I think I'm going to try and find someone who, you know, can hold me a little bit accountable, because again, it was one of those things like, how long is long enough for something to take effect, you know? And like with Liam being so busy and trying to do these other things as well, it was like I needed somebody who would like check in with me, like almost like a little bit like a life coach, and just be like, have you tried this? And like, can you give me like a symptom, feedback, you know,
Because
based on
Liam, you would get the meal plan, you ate that, but there was no, in terms of like a checkup, accountability checkup.
I think because me and Liam were mates, and it got to the point where, you know, like he got to the point where he wasn't charging me for nutrition anymore, because it was so basic that when I had surgery and I was struggling, I don't want to say basic, it wasn't basic, but you know what I mean? Like, he knew me very well.
Yeah.
It was easier for him because I wasn't a new client with all these different problems. As soon as I started wanting more individual programming again, he tried a lot of things, but the one thing that we didn't have, like, we had like catch up on message, but we were mates. And because we were like good mates, it suddenly became like for me, it was like I'm in a position here where like I need to get on top of this, and I'm like panicking about my nutrition constantly. And like when I'm just eating for performance, I can phone Liam and be like, right, mate, like have a chat for most of the time, and be like, oh, by the way, the next block of training is this, like, what do you think? And he'll change nutrition stuff. But now it's like, I need to get on top of some health issues, you know? And like, we tried really hard for 3 months to make it work, and he helped me massively. I would say pretty much got me through the storm. I wasn't quite out the end of the tunnel, but pretty much got me there. But that's when we had the conversation, because obviously like what he was going through with the company and stuff, and like gave me some potential options. And then since I can't remember the exact date, but since early this year, I've been working with Mike from M2
Must have
Nutrition.
been, because I remember you telling me about it. It must have been after Dubai.
Yeah, I think it was January maybe or February.
I think we were in Abu Dhabi when you were talking about like you already had your first call with him. So it must have been January because we were in February.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
something
So
like that.
earlier this year.
So yeah,
And now?
yeah, and so like the massive changes is he helped me with the individual stuff, much like Liam. Like I told him the experience and the background that I've had with it. He helped me with all of the individual stuff, but it was still not a meal plan. It was these are the macros I want you to hit.
Okay.
It's up to you how you want to hit them. And that was good because I've got this knowledge from Liam. And then I've got these extra things for my specific individual needs in terms of like supplements, or in terms of like try not to have too much fats in the evening because at the minute your stomach's doing this, or try like, it was just a constant feedback loop. Like I could message, feedback, message, feedback. Hey, I seen you've not tracked for like somebody else is keeping me accountable. So I have a MyFitnessPal app where he can see what I'm tracking. And so
Okay.
he'll look and he'll check in, be like, hey dude, you were shit last week at tracking. And then that adds an extra level of like, oh shit, yeah, like it's not just me I'm accountable for now. Like someone's actually looking into what I'm eating. Like they're not just relying on me saying, yeah, I'm good. Like they can see.
It's a coach-athlete relationship,
Yeah.
or a professional-client
Uh,
relationship.
Exactly. But then like this is the first time that I've actually, you know, been made aware of like the impact that fats have on my body, that carbs have on my body, that protein have on my body at different times of the day, but like with the specific like need of what I wanted. Like I always knew carbs fueled me this way, or you know, like basically not somebody saying like, hey, these are your results, here's your meal plan. It's like now I am fully accountable. Like, okay, like I know I need to have this much rice or this much chicken or this much this, because every day I'm weighing, I'm measuring, I'm tracking, you know? So yeah, that's pretty much my background of nutrition and where we're up to now. What I would suggest is that we put this one out, and sorry, I'm thinking out loud, is that we put this one out as our background to nutrition.
Yeah.
And then we cut it, and then we start again, and then we go takeaways of nutrition.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that's 50 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
And so what we want to talk about is, so we know why you made the changes, but what we want to talk about is what vertical is. So like we actually want to start giving takeaways now, like not just telling people our experiences, but like we want to give experience, like what vertical is and how it's worked for you and how you would suggest it for others. We want to talk about like people, the nutrition versus diet thing, like the why behind it, and then like some takeaways of like if you're thinking about having some nutritional changes, how we'd go about it.
And it's by no means an advertising of a nutrition plan.
No,
whatsoever.
Like we don't get any kickback.
Yeah,
like what I actually want to do at the end is be like, these are the nutrition resources I know of.
Yeah.
I don't have ties to any of them, but check them out. And if they help you, they help you. And if they don't. And if there's any nutritional resources that our listeners, all three of them, have, that they could send into us.
Yeah. It is really to show that there's something out there for everyone. What was our route towards it? It's still an ongoing process, I guess. But yeah, let's do that.
So we'll cut that.